All right, we're going to open the meeting of the Lyons Dissolution Committee. And first order of business, we're going to have opening remarks by Connie Soward. She's working for the MRB group, and she's going to give an overview of their role and the process. So this time, Connie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name is Connie Sowards, and I was the village administrator and chief operating officer for the village of Seneca Falls prior to, during, and taking care of the implementation. And it is a very complex procedure, and really the biggest thing is to minimize the fiscal implications to the village residents, to the town, and we're going to be working very hard with this group and with the village. MRB Group has 50 municipal professionals, but on this particular team, there's actually 3 of us. Dr. Mike Cattery is a PhD director of local government studies at the Rockefeller Institute in Albany. He is an expert in intergovernmental services and has focused much research on the lessons learned from the New York State Shared Services Incentives. The committee got to meet him a couple of weeks ago at one of the meetings. And then Diana Smith is a former mayor and was directly involved in not only the dissolution planning process, but the logistics of transferring the services over. Our role is really to assist the Village of Lyons with complying with the statutory New York State, all the statutory requirements for the New York State General Municipal Law, Article 17A and with the Dissolution Committee. And they hit the ground running. They're really have geared up and are working with the process. Currently, MRB Group is working on the fiscal collection of all the data of the current operations, village budget, town budget, and putting them side by side so the committee and the residents can see all of the different costs and how it's involved. The committee at the present time are taking care of analyzing the current operations, which is vital and becomes the baseline for looking at what might the entity look like with the village dissolution, and then also what the alternatives might be if in fact the village did not dissolve, and showing that to the public as well and to the village board. And it is, as I said, it's a grueling process. They have stepped up to the task and are really moving along. It's complex, and we're moving right along, and as we go through the steps, and Sergey and the committee will talk to you a little bit about what they're doing on things, I think, and the current operations right now are really the most important for this particular step of the task.
All right, thank you. What we're doing tonight is trying to give you an opportunity to just make some comments, give you an introduction to who's on the board, what we're doing, and hopefully win your approval at the end of this long data processing deal. Now, I'll let everybody introduce themselves. Dick Bogan.
I'm Dick Bogan, the subcommittee, among the subcommittee for public safety and code enforcement.
Jim Pacello, on the committee for the village barns and town.
I'm Sergey Bardashevich. I'm working on the courts.
I'm Joan Smith, and I'm working on zoning.
I'm Thea Hall. I'm working on the courts and the finance.
John Snelly, working on the sewer department and the water department with the mayor.
I'm Brian Menkel. I'm working on finance and administration and also public safety.
I'm Corinne Clisely, and I'm working on administration and finance, and I'm working with John on water and sewer.
Now, right now, we're in the process of gathering information about how many people work in each operation, and then we listed what their budgets are, and we're looking at the inventories of all the different departments to see what eventually what our recommendation will be to combine services. Now, for anybody that's interested, all our meetings, they're here at 6:30 on every Thursday. So you're free to come to any of these meetings. If you miss a meeting, the minutes are available at the Village Hall. You can also go to the website that's been set up. It's Lyons Dissolution.org. And you can either go right to that website or you can go to the Village of Lyons and get a drop down. There's a link to the site from the Village's website. And on there you'll find 4 different boxes. The first box is the home page that just explains a little bit about what we're doing. The second box is the committee members, gives all our names, contact information if you need to contact us or want to contact us. Give us your input on what we're doing. The third box is the plan process. And under the plan process, you can find the minutes to all the meetings and all the videos. Mark is videoing every meeting, putting it on YouTube. And if you go to the computer and click on the meeting, he has it split up by meeting, so you can see what was discussed. So if you hear rumors about something that happened at the meeting, and you have an hour and a half to sit and listen to everything that was said, you can confirm or deny whatever was said at the meeting. And then the fourth box is under comments. Now with the comments, it's a blank page where you can make comments to the committee, and they MRB will print them out and send them to us so that we know if there's any questions that we're not answering or if we're not being open enough with the community. So right now every committee is met with the different organizations. I've gotten reports from the police department, for the highway department. We've discussed things with the courts, the code enforcement officers, the village finance people have given us their budgets, the town budgets in our hands, and we're moving along. It's going to take, I can't believe the paperwork that's going to be involved in this. So it's going to take longer than I thought. I thought we'd be able to get things done in a couple of months, and I don't think that's going to happen. But we do have June 27th, June 28th as a goal. According to the state laws, we've got 6 months from the date that the village accepted the fact that we're going to have set up a committee. So there, December 27th was the date that the village said we're going to start advertising for bids, and because they needed to get a consultant, they had to advertise for people to send in resumes to be on this committee, and that, with legal notices and everything else, that's what took us into the end of February. So the end of February is when we went to a special village meeting where we were all introduced, and we met the representatives from MRB, and then we had our first meeting March 7th. And that is on video, and the minutes are available. So we're moving along. We're as for your indulgence and letting us do our job and not being too critical as we go along. We're all volunteers, and we're going to do the best job we can. So, with that being said, we set this date up for public comments. We're going to ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. You come up to the podium, you state your name and address and your comment. And we really unless it's a very simple question that you want answered, we can answer a few questions. But since we're just really getting started in the collection of data, we're not going to give any final disposition on what we think should or should not be done tonight. We've only met twice. So, with that being said, do we have anyone in the audience who would like to get up and make a comment? We set an hour aside, so. All right.
I'll be the first one.
All right.
My name is Tom Gowan. I live at 29 Lawrence Street here in the Village of Lyons. My comments I basically made are toward being a village employee here for the past 21 years. When I started here, I was offered certain benefits. Some of the benefits were time off with vacation, sick time. And I was told if I accumulate 165 sick days, I can use it toward retirement. Now with the village dissolving, if it does dissolve, hopefully not, but if it does dissolve, what happens to the time that I have built up to save for retirement? Will I get a paycheck when it's done, when the village is dissolved, and I can use that money to put toward retirement? Or do I need to use the time before it is dissolved, and I have enough time where I can take the next 6 months off? The other question I have is about health insurance. I was offered health insurance when I came here and told when I retired after 30 years of service that I would pay a percentage of it and the rest would be paid for by the village. Like I said, I have 21 years in. It's very difficult for me to go someplace else and get enough years in for them to pay my health care for the rest of my life. Will something be put in there to cover my health care? Or not necessarily mine, but everyone here that works for the village.
All right. Well, that is one of the things that we're going to have to come up with fairly quickly so that the village employees know what's going to happen. It has been in discussion. We went into executive session last meeting, and that was brought up. And obviously, we don't have an answer for you today. But we know that is a concern for all the village employees, and we're going to try to get an answer to you as soon as possible. Anyone else?
Any time frame for as soon as possible?
June 28th. I don't know. Really,
I mean, seriously,
we really don't. We really. Do you want to come up and make a comment?
Thank you. My name's Donna DeWolf. I'm 3456 Route 14 Lyons, and my husband works for the village. And this is not just something to be pushed aside or anything. It's a very serious problem. Tommy and the other village people have all of this time. Myself and my husband are getting ready to retire in the next couple of years. What does this leave for us? You say we'll get back to you. We'd like some kind of a time frame, because if they have to use their sick time, there's only a few months left.
Yeah.
It's something that you can't wait until June 27th to give us an answer. That's not even fair.
Well, June 27th is not the day that the village will be dissolved. The village may never be dissolved.
You're absolutely correct.
So, for me to say that by May 5th we will have an answer for you would not be fair to you or fair to me. It's something we're going to have to discuss in executive session, and it's something that...
But you're meeting every week, so how long is it going to take to come up with that kind of a...
Well...
I know the union would probably have to be involved as well.
I'm sure they will, and this is basically a village item that would have to, that's a decision they're going to make. You know, I don't know if that's even within our purview of how that will be handled. That's a personnel matter, and I don't know if our committee, we can make recommendations, because everything we're doing is just a recommendation. We're giving you a plan.
So who does have the authority to do this?
Yeah.
If I may, I know that our employees are very concerned over the years and longevity and the benefits that they do have, both retired people and the people who are working right now. When the plan is developed, it will address that issue. It will, this board, along with our village board, is going to have to address that. And I'm only mentioning it because we mentioned it before. If we're paying for benefits that belong or were given to our employees, the town would probably authorize the district, because these were benefits given by the village to their employees. It has nothing to do with the town, so it wouldn't be, they of course could take it on as an expense, but generally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Connie, is there's either a buyout or a district formed to pay for instance, retired employees who their hospitalization is paid for at this particular point. So there are several options to this committee and to the village board.
There's a couple of things. The legal obligation that the village has to the employees when they're going to be laid off, if you will. If the village does dissolve and they're going to be laid off, there are certain legal obligations that the village would be responsible for those employees. And yes, the union would be involved. There could be impact negotiations. They could sit down and talk about exactly what are the ramifications if the village dissolves and everybody comes together and negotiates in good faith. A piece of it is going to be the decision if the village does dissolve. A piece of it will be decided by the town and only the town. It is their right to determine what seniority might be carried over. If they have 41J, for which is the being able to store sick leave and then use it towards your retirement, you can add up to almost 6 months. Is it not 4 months?
Right,
Whatever it is.
165 days.
Right. That could be a factor. I know at the village of Seneca Falls, a lot of the employees were allowed to take their sick leave and bank it. They couldn't start out January 1 with the town and have 6 weeks of sick leave on the board to use. They would start to accrue the sick leave the same as the town employees would, but what they had accrued with the village were banked, and they could use that if they retired from the town towards their 41J benefit. That is strictly between the town and the Office of the State Comptroller, the New York State Retirement System. So there's a lot of options. It's very premature right now. You don't know what the unions would say. A lot going on. The committee certainly would be able to take a look at that and make recommendations. But bottom line is, it's what's offered. If in fact the village employees go over to the town, it's what's offered with them. If they're not picked up and they're laid off, that's another story, but there's a long way to get there. You still got to negotiate with the union, and a lot has to happen first. It's still premature.
Next.
I guess I just want to say something.
Right.
Joanne Grieco, 18 Montezuma Street. I want to thank all of you guys because you got a big job ahead of you, and I think we got a great crew here, and I think you're going to do well. But a question talking about the town, that they, make the final decisions and the contracts and all that. I guess I related to you. The town has already started planning, from what I understand. There are people with jobs and water, having the authority come in and do the infrastructure and all that. Is the town already making plans on the side besides this committee? According to the words that people have been getting, asked questions, and that the county is going to come in and do our infrastructure instead of having a crew. Is this, and I know that John and the mayor.
Nothing has been settled yet. We're still looking at recommendations, and
I know, but you guys are still working on all that.
Yeah, but
I'm asking if the town has already put a plan in effect.
Sure, I can answer a little bit. As far as the personnel goes, we have discussed quite a bit of the personnel, only because we have people possibly retiring, and we have a position open now that we did not fill, just because I hate to fill it with somebody else and then have a village employee not get a job. So we have discussed it somewhat, nothing in great detail. I mean, we have some ideas, just getting ourselves prepared if it does dissolve. Had a discussion with the water authority, not so much them coming in to take it over or anything, just what some of the options were. This was a few months ago, but and we in those same discussions it was for outside water also, Joanne. So we have talked to them though, but like Sergey said, nothing in great detail. And if one word is said, you know how it goes. It's like, so we have done that though.
That's why we want you to listen, read the minutes, watch the videos, because there's going to be a lot of rumors around, and whatever's said in here is basically the official. So.
Hi, Sean Dobbins, 104 William Street. I guess my question is that as a village board member, we have to plan on being here for the next 50 years and plan it that way. So if it was to go the way of alternatives, at the end, how is that going to be laid out?
How are the alternatives going to be presented?
If dissolution was not decided not to go through and alternatives did, how would that be laid out?
If I may,
Go ahead.
the committee is going to generate that plan for alternatives. Ultimately, that will be presented to you, the village board, and as you know, those would be recommendations, but it would still go back to the village board to say yes or no, and a lot of that I would assume is going to be decided based on the fiscal impact. You know, what is it going to say? What would these alternatives look like? What's the tax rate going to be with those alternatives? And they can either approve them, pick and choose what makes sense, making sure that everything is legal, and go from there, or just take it and run with it and expand it. It really is going to be just a plan, and then once that's approved, both the plan and the alternatives, then it's up to the village residents, if they so choose, to do the 25% number of petitions to force it to another public referendum.
So if that 25% happens and it ends,
and they voted the plan down,
then those individual alternative plans will be brought out?
Will be decided again by the village board.
They'll be brought out all at the same time.
Yes.
But individualized, I'm thinking?
Yes, we're going to give a plan if the village is dissolved, our plan, and alternatives if the village is not dissolved. Because like Connie said, after the process, just like there was a 25% of the voters signed a petition to dissolve the village, and it was voted upon, 25% of the village voters could sign another petition saying we want to vote on it again now that we have all this information, and then they can decide either to go along with the dissolution, or they can say we don't want to dissolve the village because we found that there were some alternatives that would still be cost savings and would be worthwhile. But that's not, I don't care either way. You know, I got on the board because I'm nosy and I just want to know what was going on. So, yeah, I didn't realize I was going to be on YouTube every week. That might have changed my mind. And of course, the only qualifications to becoming chairman was that I'm retired. And they thought I had more time than the other people that are working. So those are my qualifications. So, but we're going to put forth plans, and then it's going to be the village of Lyons voters. If they don't sign a petition to vote on it again, then the village is dissolved. I'm not sure what the time frame is on that.
That's a decision that the committee will determine the date based on, what is involved with that implementation.
Oh, okay.
After doing Seneca Falls, I can tell you it took us 22 months, and we were not entirely finished because it's taking care of a lot of disposition of assets, of agreements, renegotiating a lot of items. It is not a small task.
Yeah. So the vote would come sooner though, most likely, so that the village didn't go into all the expense of doing that.
The vote would be after the plan is approved and the alternatives is approved by the village board. The village residents, and there will be public information meetings. You'll have an opportunity to give feedback on the plan. The committee will get back together, look at those comments if they want to incorporate any of them. But when that final plan and alternative go to the board, then there are 45 days for village residents to put in a petition to force a public referendum. And then there are so many days, and I need to look that up, if we get there, where they would have to schedule a public referendum, and then the vote would happen. Then again, either they wouldn't dissolve and there could be no action for 4 years, or if they decided that they were still going to dissolve, then that date in the plan that the committee came up with will be the date the village will dissolve and all of the entities will go into the town.
I had one more, another question.
You gotta get up there.
Do I have to get up?
Yes, you do. I know that you're very shy and that...
I guess this is for Connie. We've discussed it in our budget hearings and stuff. What happens with the, money we have set in the fund for, in the fire department for, their equipment in the future, police department, you put money aside for, cars and stuff. If we were to dissolve, where does that money go into the budget? Does it go into, if, say, the town keeps the fire department, do they get to keep their equipment money? Does it go into the budget for on their end? Where does that go?
Legally, it is my understanding, and what we did in Seneca Falls, it all is determined by how the reserve account was established and for what purpose. We had the alternative of being able to take, for example, the fire, if there's a fire department reserve, it can either go back into the general account, or it can go, if there ends up being a district, it can be given to them for use for all of the benefiting users, which would include the former village residents who actually put a lot of that money in. The same with any of the reserve for the water fund have to remain in the water fund. If you have debt, you can pay down the debt with that, just like the unreserved fund balances in the water department would be the same thing. That water fund could be used after the dissolution to actually draw down debt, or you can leave it intact. It all depends, and we had our attorney look at all the verbiage of exactly how it was set up and for what purpose. Same with a cemetery fund. We had a cemetery reserve fund. If for however it was set up, it could go towards keep it with the cemetery, or it could go back into the general fund, which the plan was always to whatever is in there in excess draws down the debt within each fund. If you have general fund debt, you use it to draw that down if they can be paid off early. If not, you can actually set up a trust fund. It all depends. You're going to be working, if in fact the village is going to dissolve, you're going to be working very closely with an attorney, because there's a lot of legal ramifications to that, and you want to make sure that everything is done properly.
Which would be an additional expense, not only an attorney, but appraisers.
Yes.
After the fact.
Yes.
We're spending close to $55,000 already, but when we come to that point, if indeed we're going to be dissolved, then we have to have appraisals and so forth, and that's all additional expense.
Yes.
Steve Corcoran, 209 Canal Street, Lyons. I was under the impression in November when they voted to dissolve the village, that the village was dissolved, and the committee was to do a study on how to dissolve the committee. Now, you're saying that they're doing two studies, one to save the village and one to dissolve the village.
It's not actually to save the village. State
Or an
law.
alternative.
Right. Well, the
an
state.
alternative to.
Okay. State law. They've changed the law in the last couple of years. Now we have to come up with two plans by state law. One is give us a plan if the village dissolves. Then we have to come up with alternatives. Because of this other vote that could possibly take place after the plan is presented to the village board and accepted, and the village voters have 45 days to come up with another petition. We are also ordered to come up with a plan and consolidation of services and ways to save money if the village does not disband. Now, if there's no, so there's the two things that can happen. A, nobody signs a petition and 45 days later, the village is dissolved. B, voters get together, they sign petitions, and they say we want another vote, we want another referendum, and then there's a vote. And either the village is still dissolved, or they say we don't want to dissolve for 4 years, in which case the village has another plan on how they might be able to cooperate some of the savings that we feel could be realized. So, but this is a state law, where we're not doing this because we think that the village should not be dissolved. We're doing this because the state says you have to do it this way. So I understand. I was surprised to hear this too, because I didn't think there was going to be an option. I thought we were just coming up with, when I was appointed or when I said I want to be on the board committee, I thought we were going to be here to figure out on a plan to dissolve the village only. And that's why MRB's here, to explain what the state laws are, and that, no, we have to come up with more options than just one.
The village did that 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
the only thing they could come up with was the zoning code enforcement officer.
Well,
because the board and the mayor didn't want to do some of the things, and union contracts won't let you do alternatives.
Well, what has happened now is that we have 9 people who are just trying to come up with the best ideas possible. I don't have any biases in this. Most, none of us do. So we're going to come up with a plan and present it, and you can come to all the meetings, listen to what we have to say. You can comment. We will probably have a meeting like this once a month, so that you can be brought up to date. You'll know what's going on. We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to get all the information out to, between the minutes being posted online, being able to be picked up at the office. The video doesn't lie. You'll be able to see exactly what is being discussed. And if you think that we're not being honest in any way, or that we're trying to push one plan over another, that's where your comments are important, and you let us know. Because
not that at all. I was under the assumption, like you were,
yeah, right,
that this was supposed to be dissolved, and then it was up to later if they wanted to or not.
Right. So I learned something the first meeting, and that's why I made it. Last meeting I brought it up again.
Well, that's what I.
Right. So, but it's state law. So.
Right. And Joanne's right. Thank you to all of you. It's a lot of time, and you're volunteering. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Do you have that plan that everybody keeps going back to from 2 years ago? Have you guys all seen it?
Yes.
Because we did accomplish a lot of that. I sat on that committee and we did a lot of the stuff in that book. I don't know why it keeps getting referred back to that.
Anyone else?
Another question as far as with the employees here from the village going to the town. Will we actually go to the town with basically the same benefits that the town has as a 21-year employee, or do we start as a brand new employee walking up the street? I know it's something you'd be working on.
I have no idea. As soon as we know, we'll let the employees know.
Okay.
But I don't want to, I'm not going to pin that on the village or the town right now. You know, we would hope that, I'm sure that in the eyes of the people that are making the decisions, they're going to be as fair as possible. And again, you're going to have union representation there to also make sure that your rights are protected. So I'm not going to give a statement now as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, but it's something I want to get out there so you can at least consider.
Oh yeah, we know it's out there. Well, like I said, we discussed this last week in executive session. And we know there's a concern and we understand why. I'd feel the same way.
I have two questions. Jack Bailey, 35 High Street. Who will be the responsible party for doing the appraisal and valuation of all the village assets and equipment?
Right now, we were getting together what we have from the Town Highway Department. We have an inventory there. That final answer won't be done until the village is dissolved, and then the appraisals will come out. We're not going to hire someone to come out and do appraisals, because I got the list from Jake Emo from the town, and he gave us how much he paid for stuff. But he says, I don't feel comfortable putting a actual cash value on every truck and every piece of equipment we have. So he said, you know, he gave us the inventory, we have the inventory, but a final appraisal won't be done until the village is dissolved.
The reason I'm raising the question is because the reports that I had read, at least in the press following the Seneca Falls one, there seemed to be a big discrepancy between what the village said the appraisals were, and then when the town got the reports, they ended up doing another appraisal, which probably cost the town more money. So I'm just concerned that that issue needs to be at least addressed by the committee to make sure that, you know, there's not going to be double amounts of money being spent on, you know, doing double work on it.
Well, it would make sense for the village and town to agree on an appraiser.
My other question was, can you share with the public, with the dissolution going through, what is the state aid amount of money to help to assist that comes from the state, this whole thing to, you know, to come around? The mayor's mentioning some costs, about $55,000, but there was a statement at one of our earlier meetings that there was a large grant of money that the state made available for this process to move forward.
I'm getting mixed signals here. There is a grant available. Are you talking about a grant or a state aid that would be every year?
Well, there was a previous meeting, it was stated there was a $500,000 amount of money to assist.
All right, from what we have right now is that there is a grant to help pay for the consultant, which is 90%, I believe.
How much is that?
90% of the 56,000 or whatever that we have budgeted.
55,000 was your grant.
The total.
The total grant was 55,000. That was the original grant for the dissolution, implementation and information dissemination, and the dissolution plan to get to the board. If the village dissolves, there is some money available. It is nowhere near what the town and village of Seneca Falls applied for because the rules have changed. When the town and village of Seneca Falls dissolved, we were given $406,000 for the implementation piece. That was to take care of legal, going through all the easements, the agreements, the actuarial, the appraisals that were done by a professional, because we needed to close out the village, which had to include all of the assets that were being given over to the town with fair market value. The aid, if that's what you're referring to, every year, this past year, there is AIM money that was given to the town and village of, or town of Seneca Falls. And it equates to, I believe it's 15% of the combined tax levy. And for the village and town of Seneca Falls, I think the first year they got $520,000. It has to be voted on every year with the state budget. So it's not a guarantee, but that's an incentive that the state used for the last 3 years maybe as an incentive for village and towns to take a look at the dissolution and see if it would work for them. Because it's a sizable amount of money. Again, depending on the community and what your tax levies are.
How was that $490-some thousand then? What was there a formula that enabled Seneca Falls to get that type of money to start the implementation of the dissolution process?
It was a grant, and what we did is we got together with the state, the town did, and the village. We all got together, and they allowed us at that point to start to keep track of all the costs back from the day that the dissolution plan was voted on. We were under Article 19. The plan had to be done before the vote. Once the vote happened, there was no recourse to go back. As you know, the state has since said, wait a minute, now we need to look. So it's a little bit different. So we went through and we had figured out exactly what we had spent for that. And it ended up between the town and the village, we submitted the grant. It was $628,000 between the two of us. They came back and gave $406,000, and the process was to be based on what each of us had spent. As it turned out, and you know with the state, a lot of times it takes them a very long time to get their contracts and money in. The village dissolved before the money was realized in. The town then would, again, we were gone, so the town could decide what that money was going to be used for. But the plan was, it was almost going to be 50-50. We had spent $55,000 on appraisals. We had another $12,000 on the actuarials to come up with what the health benefits and what the cost was going to be for the district, attorney fees, all of that. So the town received it after the village dissolved. The plan was that since the village had put the money in for some of this cost in their last budget year, that when that money came in, it was just going to be used to draw down the debt, which ended up being a debt district.
So underneath the new law now, what is the process with the state for funding for the implementation?
It is my understanding, and again, every year they vote on what they want to see. This past year, 2012, I believe the most you could go in for an implementation grant was $50,000. That's my understanding. And I'm sure we can check on that, whatever that year happens to be, if in fact the village dissolves.
Anyone else? We have 17 minutes left if anybody wants to talk. If not, I'm going to call this portion of the meeting to a close and adjourn. And we will notify you again probably a month from now. We'll have another public information meeting like this. Same time, same station. Thank you for coming.